Hi there, and welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food, and we keep it real simple. And today, we're gonna make zucchini bread in the Ninja Foodi. This is a super quick and easy recipe, and it tastes delicious. So let's get started with that. The first thing I'm gonna do is prepare my pan. Now this is a 7-inch loaf pan from Fat Daddy-O. These come in a set of 2, but unfortunately they will not both fit in the Ninja Foodi at the same time. Now, I could do some layering with them, but I'm gonna make just one loaf because it's plenty for all of us to enjoy. So the first thing we need to do is get some butter and a little bit of flour. Now, you could also use something called pan grease, which I use a lot, but I just didn't make any up this time, so I'm gonna go ahead and just butter this and flour it. And this is a butter bell, which they are so inexpensive on Amazon. A friend told me about a deal that's going on, or I think it's all the time. It's not like a sale or anything. They're like, I don't know, $6. But anyway, what it does is it keeps your butter at the perfect temperature out on your counter. You put cold water in it and change it every day, and then you have spreadable butter. I love it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just brush the bottom and all 4 sides with a light layer of butter. And then we're gonna get some flour in there, and I'm gonna make sure that every bit of surface is floured. I just wanna make sure that this zucchini bread comes out with ease. All right, that looks good. So now I'm just gonna take maybe a tablespoon of flour, tablespoon and a half. And then the easiest way I find to do this is just to shake it, move it around, let it fall down the edges, get it on the bottom. And then I don't want any excess, so I'm gonna hit the sides here and get a bowl and just get all the excess out. All right, perfect. Now, the reason why I do that first in this recipe is because zucchini bread is a quick bread. And a quick bread, well, number one, they're quick to make, okay, because all the ingredients go in. There's no special order or any kind of fluff the egg and, do all that kind of stuff. It's really simple. It's a dump and mix. But also because they need to be cooked quickly, because what we're using to leaven or rise the bread is baking powder. And once baking powder is combined with any liquid ingredients, it starts to activate. So this bread is not one that you would make up and then leave on the counter for 3 hours before you baked it. You want to get it into the Ninja Foodi or the oven quickly. And then it's called a quick bread. This is the same with cornbread and banana bread and basically any breads that use baking powder or baking soda as their rising agent. All right, I have a medium-sized mixing bowl, and I'm gonna start off with 2 eggs that I'm just gonna crack in there. These are just large eggs. And then I have 3/4 of a cup of white sugar. I'm gonna dump that in. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I'm gonna dump that in. See what I mean? It's like dump and mix. And 1/3 of a cup of canola vegetable oil, or any oil that you like to cook with. All right, now I'm just gonna take my fork here and just sort of mix these ingredients up. These are our wet ingredients, so we're gonna put those in first. Now about this time, I'm gonna start preheating the Ninja Foodi because it's not gonna even take me 10 minutes to get the rest of this together. So I should have probably done that as soon as I floured and buttered that pan, but let's do it now. Bake roast, we're gonna take the temperature down to 275. And I know that seems like crazy low, but that is what you want for this recipe. And I'm gonna take the time to 10 minutes just so it beeps at me when I know it's preheated. You do wanna preheat the Ninja Foodi before you put in the baked goods, and that will make the pot hot and start the cooking process immediately. And that works really well with breads and a lot of other things, like anything you're frying, air frying, definitely preheat. All right, so I've got this mixed and incorporated. Now let's get our zucchini ready. And then we'll put in our dry ingredients just before we put it into the pan. All right, so here is the zucchini. Now this one is a really large zucchini. Normally they're gonna be smaller. We need 1 total cup of dry, squeezed, grated zucchini. So I'm gonna guesstimate here about, it's gonna probably take about that much. So I think 1 to 2 small sized zucchinis will be fine. Now, if you do have something that's mammoth like I do here, you want to make sure that you don't grate down into the seed area. You only want the outer layers to be grated for the zucchini bread. You don't want to get the inner fibrous stuff. So and you can use 2 different kinds of graters. So I have just a regular, cheese grater here. Actually, what works better is a fine box grater. A box grater that stands up and they've got different size grates on each side. Well, the fine side works really well because you get really small pieces of the zucchini. But I happen to like to see the zucchini in my zucchini bread, so I just go ahead and use this. You can use whatever kind of grater you like. So I don't want really long strands of the zucchini, so I'm just gonna make short little cuts here. This is a great way to use up zucchini if you grow it in your garden. I know ours did really well this year. So I got right down to where the seeds are, and there's a couple of seeds here, so I'm just gonna take those off so they don't get into the mixture. And now I'll go to the next side and grate it. And it looks like we will have just as much. You probably want about 1.5 cups grated, because by the time you squeeze out all the water, it'll end up being about 1 cup. And if you're a little over or a little under, don't worry about it. So if you get like 3/4 cup of zucchini out of 1 zucchini, you don't have to use the second one. You'll be fine with 3/4 cup. I got down to those seeds again. All right, so let's go this way. I am just about there with what I need, so. And I think that'll do it. Perfect. All right, so now zucchini is full of water and we need to get some of that out. Now you could just pick it up with your hands and squeeze it, or you could use a towel like I'm gonna do. And I'm just kind of using this bowl. This is just our leftover flour from the pan. I'm gonna just squeeze the water into there. So you could use cheesecloth, or you could use one of these flour sacks, which I happen to love. I use them for straining yogurt. And if you are interested in making yogurt, I will link to that video right up there. All right, so I'm gonna get all this in here and then we're just gonna squeeze. You'll be amazed at how much liquid comes out. It's pretty crazy. It's already starting. Let me see so you can see. Look at that. That is a lot of liquid. And it's very important that you do this. Now I wonder if I even have a cup of the zucchini here. I think I do though. Let me move this out of the way so I don't knock it off. That looks pretty good. That looks about a cup. It might be just a little shy, but that'll be fine. So we're good to go with that. So we've got our zucchini and we are at the 3-minute mark, so we're pretty good to go on with the rest of the recipe. So I'm gonna add in the spices. Now there's no certain order. The only thing you wanna do is add in your baking powder at the last ingredient. But other than that, you could mix the spices with the flour and then dump it all in, however you wanna do it. half of a teaspoon of sea salt. This is a fine grind sea salt. And then I have 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground cloves. And I have a half of a tablespoon of cinnamon. That's it. Now you can add in ginger, you could add in nutmeg. I mean, you could do whatever you want with your zucchini bread to spice it up. But I found that this was just a really nice blend, and so that's what I went with. I'm gonna dump that in. Just give it a mix around. Now I'm gonna dump in the flour. And we are good to go to dump in the last ingredient, the baking powder. Of course, second to last ingredient, right? Because I am gonna fold in the zucchini at the end. So now you just mix, and you could use a whisk. Honestly, it's just as easy to use a fork if you ask me. So, just gonna mix this until it's incorporated, and it'll become like a cake batter in consistency. So I mentioned that we set the temperature to 275 and that's really a low temperature. And you might be interested in why I'm going so low. So what happens with the Ninja Foodi is it operates like a convection oven. And the convection ovens will cook the food faster, and so you usually will decrease the temperature of certain things, not everything. Certain things, you'll decrease the temperature by 25 to 50 degrees, and then, and also you might decrease the time a little bit. Well, what I've noticed with baked goods, and this is box cakes and cornbreads and any other type of a quick bread or cake that I've made in the Ninja Foodi, is that the tops always get done before the middle. So it's the bottom and the top, they're perfect, and the middle is still raw. So what I decided to do was take a really low and slow approach with this to make the perfect zucchini bread, and I did, and it's wonderful. It's 275 for 35 minutes, and it works great, but then you have to let it cool. You know, I'm always saying that, right? You have to let it cool. You can't eat it right away, but this is important again, so we'll put it on a rack and let it cool. All right, so I'm just gonna throw in the dried zucchini and mix that up. Now, you don't really need to use the fork for this. You could actually use a spatula or whatever you have on hand. I'm gonna go ahead and use my scoop and spread, and I'm just gonna kind of fold the zucchini into the batter. Okay, so once this is incorporated in, and we have perfect timing because our Ninja Foodi has finished preheating, we just pour it into the pan. Now, this will go up a little over halfway. Now you can fill it up to 2/3 of the way full, but for this recipe, I decided just a little bit over half was where I wanted it. It rises up nicely, but you don't have a real big dome on the top. And I did that on purpose, and you'll see a little bit later in the video why I did that. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So now all we have to do is get this on the rack into the Ninja Foodi, and we'll bake it for 35 minutes at 275. Next, I'm gonna try see how it is if I pressure cook it. So if you guys do that before I do, let me know how it works out, because I'm curious. Okay, bake, and we're gonna go to 275 for 35 minutes. Perfect. All right, so we'll just let it bake for 35 minutes, then we'll get it out to cool. All right, so the Ninja Foodi has been baking our zucchini bread at 275 degrees for just about 35 minutes. Now, there's a couple of ways you can test for doneness. You can use the cake tester, but one thing that I have found, especially when I was making cornbread the other day, is it came out clean and it wasn't cooked in the middle. So I'm no longer really trusting that method, although I've used it for years, and I'm sure many of you do too. I am now working with a thermometer. Now, on a previous video that I did, I told you guys I have the slowest thermometer in the world. So I ended up getting one through Amazon for Amazon Prime, and I thought it was a pretty good deal. I think now they're around $20, but I'm still pretty impressed with it. So basically, it's kind of got this little probe here. It's kind of bulky, but you know, I like it. It's Therm Pro is the brand, and I'll link to it below because for $20, it's pretty fast. So the best way is to check the middle with a thermometer, and you want the temperature to be around 200 degrees. Doesn't have to be exactly, but around 200 degrees. So I'm gonna go in, and I'm gonna go in where there's a crack here, so I don't mess up other parts here. And it is at 198, 199, 200. I'm gonna go over here, check a few places. We're good. We're good. 199.8, close enough for me. That's good. We're gonna take it out now. It will continue to cook in the middle as it cools. So even if there's a little area that isn't quite done, it will finish cooking. And I'm real happy with that temperature, and I don't wanna overcook it. So we have our beautiful loaf of zucchini bread. Oh, it smells so good. I mean, it's kind of like a little spice bread or a little spice cake. So now we have to let it cool, and so it comes to room temperature so that we can put on this magical glaze. You definitely want to stick around for that. So we're gonna make up a really quick and simple glaze, and it's not full of powdered sugar. I don't like that stuff. I've tried to make those regular glazes. They look so beautiful on the cake, but they taste terrible. So I've come up with another little quick glaze that we can put on this, and it's gonna taste delicious. All right, so I wanted to come back because I started to notice something happening as the zucchini bread was cooling. And right along where there was that little natural crack that we took the temperature in, it started sinking in right here in the middle. And what that tells me is that that very center right there is not done. And then I realized what I did. I took the temperature down here, I took the temperature up here, but I didn't take the temperature in the middle. So I wanted to show you how the bread looked during the test run. You can see it's absolutely perfect. There's, you know, it was cooked completely through, and I did it for 40 minutes. The reason why I decided to go down on the time to 35 minutes was because I just thought it was just a tad overdone. The temperature was at 212 degrees when I pulled it out. So I thought, that's a little much. Let's back it off by 5 degrees. And now this, I'm guessing, it's just not quite done. So there's a couple things you could do if that starts to happen. You could put it back in the oven and cook it for another 5 minutes, or you could flip it. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna flip it and see if it will just continue to finish cooking. And I'm gonna take a temperature where I really see it coming down and see what it's at now. And it looks like it's like 160 or something like that. And it is a little undercooked. You know what? I might have to throw it back in. So anyway, the timing is going to be, since 40 minutes was a little too much, 35. We're going to go right in the middle at 37, because you can't do 37 and a half on the Ninja Foodi. So we're going to say 37 minutes is going to be the perfect bake time, and I'll get another zucchini bread done. But I still am going to finish this video with this one, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it. Now, I could run this around and flip it out, but actually I don't want it to cool. I want it to continue to heat, so I want to keep the pan on. So right now, I'm just going to flip it so that the weight of the top, which is heavier, isn't going to keep pressing it down. So I'm just going to turn it over and let it finish cooling. And then we're going to cut them, and we're still going to glaze it, and we're going to see what the middle looks like. And that way you guys will know what the perfect time is for your zucchini bread, and maybe you'll pick up a thermometer because they're really handy. All right, so the bread's been cooling like about a half of an hour or so, and it's still warm to touch, but I think it's gonna be fine to flip out onto our rack to finish cooling while we make up our glaze, and then we'll be able to pour the glaze over it. So I'm just going to turn the pan over here, put it on my cutting board, and I'm gonna use a cake tester, or you could use any kind of a sharp instrument that won't scratch your pan, and go around the edges. Now remember, we buttered and floured the pan, so we really shouldn't have any issues with this sticking. All right, there we go. Oh my God, it smells so good. I'm so excited. All right, so now I'm just going to flip it over, give it a little shake, and out we come. Beautiful. All right, it looks really good. Looks really good. But it did collapse even more. So you know what, that center is not cooked. So we definitely need to go that 37 minutes maybe even 40. So keep that in mind when you're cooking it. And I will write the recipe for between 37 and 40 minutes. But I'm gonna go ahead and glaze this one because what I'd like to do is cut it in the middle so we can see just how undone it is. And again, this is the test recipe and it's perfect all the way through. So, you know, it figures it happens when I'm shooting the video, right? That's life. Okay. Here we go. So the glaze. Now, I just did a recipe for key lime pie, which is delicious, and I will link to that right up there. And this was the icing that we put on, like little dollops around the pie. It looks so beautiful. And I thought, you know what? This will make a really great glaze because it's not too sweet. And I think it'll pair really nicely with the zucchini bread. So we're gonna give it a try. What I have here is 4 ounces of cream cheese. That is room temperature. You do want it to be soft. And I have 2 tablespoons of sugar. That's just plain white sugar. And we're gonna use a little mixer here on low and just get this combined. All right, that's great. Now, in the key lime pie, I wanted an icing, wanted something to be stiff. So I used 1/2 cup of heavy cream and I whipped it up like it would for whipped cream. Now, with this recipe, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently because I want it to be a glaze. So I want it to stay kind of in a liquid form, but that it will harden up. So we're gonna do it a little bit different. I know I'm gonna spill it. Oh well, I spilled it, it's okay. That's life too. I'm using the wrong type of measuring cup and that's why. And I filled it up pretty high. So, all right, so I'm gonna just put about 1/4 cup in here at a time. So while your mixer is still going on a low speed, I'm gonna add in a little bit more. I may not use the whole cup. In fact, it's looking like I'll probably just use about 1/2 cup still. I'm just not gonna beat it as much so it stays a little bit less firm. Okay, I think that's gonna be a good pourable consistency. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my workstation set up so that we can pour this over and then we'll cut it and we'll taste it. All right, in just the few minutes that it took me to get the parchment paper and everything, this is thickened up just a little bit too much to be pourable. So I'm gonna be adding in the rest of the cup of the heavy cream and just stirring it in. And that will get it a little bit looser so it can pour over. And hopefully it'll still hold on to our zucchini. It tastes delicious though. I snuck a little taste. All right, that looks really good. All right, so this is a great way to do any kind of a glaze. Put a piece of parchment down and then your cooling rack, and then you can pour it over and it'll just spill over and make a real pretty decoration, and it's easy to clean up. Or sometimes, like if I'm doing chocolate, I can actually save the chocolate and reuse it, so that helps too. All right, so all I'm gonna do here is just pour this over. I want it to go down the sides and cover the top. So I'll spread it and just let it kind of go down and drip down on the sides. It doesn't have to be completely coated, and I think I would probably do this a little prettier. All right, so that's not exactly what I had in mind. I wanted it to be a little bit drippier, so this didn't work out. That's okay. That's what we do. We try. I make the mistake so you don't have to. That's what I live by, right? But anyway, we're gonna make it work because all I'm gonna do is put a little bit of this icing all over. Very seldom is anything ruined when you're cooking. You can usually fix it, no problem. So now if you let this set up in the refrigerator, it would be a nice soft little icing there. It's not gonna get hard. If you wanted it to be harder, you know, you would wanna whip that cream in more and get it more like whipped cream, and then it would be harder, but that's okay. This is fine for me. So now let me grab a knife and a little plate and we will cut it. I'm gonna cut it straight down the middle so we can see just what went on in that center. All right, let's see what the inside looks like. Now I can't touch it because I didn't let it set up at all, but I'm just gonna cut straight down the middle. And let's see what we have here. Oh, it looks pretty good. Huh, that's interesting. Well, let's see, let's investigate, because I think this is the kind of stuff that's fun when you can like take a look at something and try to figure out why it went wrong. So I'm gonna move this towards me so I can take a look and see. It is just that center part, but you know what? I think it's gonna be, I think this is good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna compare the two. I'm gonna take a little slice of both because this looks pretty good, and I don't mind that I'm making a mess though. I don't mind that the little center is kind of depressed because it's kind of cool looking. So when I cut a slice, I'm kind of happy with it. Okay, so we're 35 minutes all the way up to 40 minutes. That, you know, you can choose. So let me take a little slice. I mean, it really is moist. It's very, very moist. All right, so now I'm gonna cut another slice of this and we're gonna taste it. So this one was the one that I did at 275 for 40 minutes. And of course I don't have any, oops, I'm poking holes in it, that's okay. I don't have any icing on it, but that won't matter. So I'm gonna compare the two and explain what I'm tasting here. And that way you can make a decision on what time will work best for you. This icing is really good. You know what, I'm just gonna move this whole cutting board out of my way here because as I picked up the parchment paper, I got the icing all on my finger. All right, great, so let's taste it. All right, so this is the one that I cooked for 40 minutes at 275. I really don't think that I would recommend going up on that temperature. I think the temperature is fine, so I think it's just the timing that we need to work on. Okay, let's taste it. It's good. The flavors are amazing. I would not say it's dry at all, but it's not quite as moist as I wanted, and that's why I dropped the time. So now, let me taste a little bit down here, and then I'm gonna taste up here where I think it didn't really cook all the way through. Better. Oh my goodness. That's the winner. Wow. It's really different. That 5 minutes made a huge difference, guys. This is delicious. This is much better. I mean, the flavors are good in both because they're obviously the same recipe. This one melts in your mouth. The icing is phenomenal. I didn't do a very good job and it doesn't look very pretty, but it doesn't matter because it tastes delicious. All right, I'm really having a hard time here because I want to say 35 minutes, but you're going to end up maybe with a little depression in your bread, but it's so good. It's maybe 37. I don't know. It'll be your decision, but this is absolutely fantastic. So I'll be cooking mine for 35 minutes from here on out. This is really good. Well, things didn't quite work out as planned in this video, and the icing's a little runnier than I wanted. It didn't drizzle, and you know, the cake timing was a little off, but that's what happens in the kitchen. That's real life. And it's important just to learn from our mistakes and keep on going. So you keep on watching these videos. Let me make the mistakes so that you don't have to. You can subscribe to my channel right over there and hit the notification bell.